Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom. How's it going?
Well, Tony, after being up in Michigan, having it being about 6.2 degrees earlier this week, we're back in Columbus. It's like in the high 40s or 50, and this is, other than the blue skies, it really feels like Ohio State Michigan week right now.
Well, it's nicer to live down south, as we all know, where the weather is fantastic. And here we are, live. Go ahead and throw some questions at us while we got some time. Finished today with Ryan Day, talking to Jim Knowles, let's see if I can remember all seven. Are you ready? Paris Johnson, Cade Stover, Ronnie Hickman, Emeka Egbuka, Tommy Eichenberg, and I believe it was just those five.
Definitely missed Xavier Johnson. And you missed.
I did not miss C.J. Stroud. He was not there.
C.J. Stroud did not talk, which is a little surprising.
Defensively
Did you get Zach Harrison?
I did not get Zach Harrison.
Zach Harrison.
And welcome, everybody, to the Buckeye Weekly noise behind us. I know it's been a while. We do a lot of indoor recording and live streaming, and it's not what you guys prefer. You like the ambiance, the sounds of nature behind us. When you get out in the wild, you get to hear the nature. And so that we wanted to just bring the show to the people. Hope you're happy.
Tony, every leaf in my yard was down on the ground like a month ago. How could people possibly still be operating leaf blowers and carts? I mean, this is, every time we try and do one of these outside, I am more and more convinced that we are on some version of the Truman Show where this is all absolutely set up solely for our, what's the opposite of benefit?
Detriments, yes. But we're going to power through. It's about toughness. It's about competitive stamina, and that's what we're here for. And this week has been about competitive stamina, and we are here. But like I said, talk to those guys. Got a feel for where everything stands, and obviously tons of questions about toughness. And it's almost, I'm so ready to be done talking about it, but you can't be done until the question is answered, and the question will be answered on Saturday.
Yeah, I am very tired of hearing about toughness, and I think there is a certain argument to be made that if you have to constantly tell people how tough you are, that how tough are you? This is the week that answers that question, because they sort of acknowledge at this point, like, hey, we weren't where we needed to be last year. So now you've spent a year with, you see all the videos of Mickey Marotti and mat drills, and oh man, it's never been tougher than this. And they really are focused on rebuilding and building a tougher defense, and bringing in Jim Knowles and being smarter defense and playing tougher and winning the game in the trenches. Now we find out, this is the weekend where we find out, because this will probably be a better test on that front than anything they're going to play in Indianapolis or after that, assuming they win. This is the week that this has all been building up to, because for years and years and years, it felt like Ohio State was building its team to win in the college football playoff. Well, Michigan, while everyone else was going spread and whatever, Michigan, I don't even know if they went old school. They just, while everyone else was evolving, Michigan was like, nope, just going to stay here in the water. And, while everyone else is developing legs and walking out onto land, Michigan is like, nope, we're just going to stay in the water. And here's the thing. Once you're developed to be out in the land, sometimes you can get pulled down under the water. And if you've lost the ability to breathe there, you have an overly complicated metaphor.
I wasn't going to say that. I was just going to say Michigan is the old coot who won't leave the volcano. But I think both are apt. And last year, Ohio State got pulled out into the deep water, and they weren't ready for it.
Stop playing games in Lake Lanier. That's my takeaway.
Yes. The constant talk about toughness, though, is because of the constant questions. And we as reporters and media are simple folk. And if you tell us to focus on something, we are going to do that. And so that has been a common refrain. And, if it's the focus, then it's going to be our focus as well. I've gotten people saying, like, exactly what you said. If they have to keep talking about it, well, the reason they keep talking about it is because they keep being asked about it. And if you ask about them and they don't talk about it, then you're like, they're not tough. If they're not willing to talk about it. They're not even willing to talk about toughness, then they're not tough. So it's a little catch-22 for those guys. But I will be happy to be done with it in the days following. Because however it goes, it's still going to be the story.
Right. Yeah. It's going to be either they have answered the bell or they haven't. And boy, if they haven't answered the bell, that's going to raise some real existential questions about the current setup of Ohio State football.
You can lose that game and still be tough. Toughness was never in question until last year's loss. So it's like, it wasn't, that 96 team just wasn't tough, or that 2011 team just wasn't tough.
Well, but the way Michigan plays, I don't know how Michigan wins this game without beating Ohio State in the trenches. If Ohio State wins in the trenches, they win this game by 4 touchdowns because they have far better skill position talent than Michigan does, especially with Blake Corum not 100% and Donovan Edwards not 100%. If Ohio State is even in the trenches, Ohio State probably wins by 10 points or 14 points. If Michigan wins in the trenches, Ohio State has a problem. And then you're asking some very big and high-level questions about the Ohio State football program. I don't think it's possible for Ohio State to – I don't think it's possible for Michigan to win this game without winning in the trenches. And that's, when they talk about toughness, that's what they're talking about.
So if Ohio State wins this by 2 or 3 touchdowns, is it okay to then question Michigan's toughness?
I don't know that Michigan is trying to win the game the same way. I think it's fair to question Michigan's athleticism on the outside. I think if Ohio State wins this game, and it's just even in the trenches, and Ohio State wins this game because they have better skill talent, I think the question there is, so Michigan, why is your defensive backfield not up to the standard that it needs to be? Because that's the standard it's going to have to be if they play in the college football playoff. That you saw where Michigan failed last year. And if they fail in the same way against top-level competition again this year, I think you are asking questions about Michigan. It's just a different question because Michigan has different strengths and weaknesses than Ohio State does.
Kevin, have we gotten any super chats for the noise?
No super chats for the noise.
Okay. But
what?
If Ohio State wins the battle of the line of scrimmage, which we say they need to do in order to win the game, if they are the tougher team, then is Michigan not tough?
I understand.
Is it a fair label? It's a fair label to give to last year's team. Is it a fair label to give to a team before it even happens, before there is even a decision made this week?
Oh, I'm not. I don't think you're putting a label on it right now. I'm just saying if it happens again, if Michigan is able to take a quarterback who is not, we'll do a tail of the tape show potentially this week, but Michigan's quarterback, Michigan's wide receivers are not as good as Ohio State's. Michigan has a bunch of banged up tight ends. So, and Michigan's running backs, top 2 running backs, are also banged up. Ohio State's are too. So, if Michigan beats Ohio State, where are they doing that? They're doing that because their offensive line is better than Ohio State's defensive line, and is Michigan's defensive line better than Ohio State's offensive line? I don't see a way that Michigan wins this game without winning in the trenches.
Okay.
If you win in the trenches, and if you're the team that loses in the trenches, that's how these guys are defining toughness. You win in the trenches. That's how these teams are. It's the mental, the mental stick-to-itiveness and the competitive stamina and all that stuff. But it is, when they talk about you got to win, you got to be able to run the ball on 3rd and 2. You got to be able to win in the trenches. This is not me defining the terms. This is how they are defining the terms.
You say that Michigan can't win without winning the line of scrimmage. It sounds like you're saying Ohio State can, but if they do, have they proven anything?
Well, I think if Ohio State wins this year, they have certainly proven that they have addressed the issues that happened last year. Because I still think last year's Ohio State team was more talented than Michigan's. And if you look at the 247 team talent composite, Ohio State is, a level above Michigan. Michigan is there's the top couple. It's Ohio State and a couple SEC teams, and there's a little drop off, and then Michigan's in that next level down. Michigan has to win it with brute force. I mean, that is how Michigan has designed their team, and that's how they won last year. If Ohio State, like I said, doesn't have to dominate Michigan in the trenches. All they have to do is negate what Michigan's trying to do, and then you just let the talent win out. It's a couple, was it the Northwestern game where Ohio State looked like hot garbage for the first half, and it was like everyone just needs to relax. The talent differential will win out here for Ohio State. In that case, it was 50-mile-an-hour winds. In this case, it's at some point, who game on the line in a 2-minute drill. Who do you trust to move the offense down the field more, J.J. McCarthy or C.J. Stroud? Who do you trust to make the tough catch, Michigan's wide receivers or Ohio State's wide receivers? Ohio State has an advantage in so many different areas in this game that it's just if Michigan wins in the trenches, that's how they win the game. And if Ohio State just plays kind of even with Michigan in the trenches, I think they'll be fine. It's just where does that stand? And I think if Ohio State's even playing close to Michigan in the trenches, that shows me that they really have addressed some of what they're trying to do.
So
is there a van trying to park within 3 feet of us right now? Listen, maybe, I don't know. Possibly.
This could be great for us if one of us goes down due to being hit by a van. Kevin, any super chats for the grounds crew coming in?
No super chats yet. Starting to get some questions, but no super chats.
I want to talk about Dallin Hayden because Ryan Day was asked about him, and we didn't get a chance to really address him yet. So Ryan Day was asked, has he done enough at this point to be starter ready? And Ryan Day is like, we'll see how the week goes, how practice goes. But then he was also asked if Dallin Hayden is 100% and TreVeyon Henderson or Mayan Williams are 80 to 85%. Is it better to have Dallin out there? Is he equating that, or is he the better option? And Day did say that's a question, that's a conversation they need to have, that they would need to have. And it really sounds like initially, we're still going to go with Mayan, but then as the week goes on, I think they're to the point now where they will have serious discussions about this is Dallin Hayden's game.
Well, and Dallin Hayden and Mayan Williams bring kind of different stuff.
Yes.
I feel like if you're running the ball outside, you're better off having Dallin Hayden in there. If you're running the ball inside and Mayan Williams is anywhere close to 90%, you're probably better off with Mayan Williams. But it is a question. And I think a lot of that goes back to Dallin Hayden. When Ryan Day talks about Dallin Hayden, what's the first thing he says? Takes care of the football. I mean, and he's if you are a true freshman and you take care of the football, that's the number one thing. Can you take care of the football? Can you handle the blitz pickup and the blocking responsibilities and that kind of stuff? And then, being able to run and pick up the yardage, that's the third thing. And he's kind of ticked all of those boxes, it feels like, at this point. But he is someone who I think has earned his way sort of into that circle of trust to a certain degree. I get the sense that this week, if Mayan Williams is 85-90% and TreVeyon Henderson is 85-90%, I think it's Mayan Williams 1, Dallin Hayden 2, TreVeyon Henderson 3. And because frankly, TreVeyon Henderson just doesn't look like he's going to be. I don't think TreVeyon Henderson was operating at 85 or 90% last week.
No, and I think what you can get from Mayan Williams and Dallin Hayden is better suited for what they'll see from Michigan in that run defense. I'm interested to see how Michigan handles the run when the threat of the pass is there, because they're going to have to be spread out, and you're going to have a nickel defense most likely out there for most of the game, and so they're going to have to stop the run with their nickel. And we talked with Mike Sainristil yesterday, and a lot of the discussion was about how he's going to handle the pass, but he's going to have to handle the run as well, and it's going to be two physical backs out there putting it on him.
And Mike Sainristil is not a big dude. No. He's an undersized nickel. He is not Tanner McAllister size. So, I feel like you're probably not necessarily throwing him into the run fit very often if you're Michigan. So if you don't, then that limits what you can do in terms of defense. But, and it also puts them in potentially a bad spot if he's not a sure tackler against a Mayan Williams type back. If Mayan Williams is healthy. I mean, there's so many different levels to this. But it does feel like that's an area where, if Ohio State can run the ball, that tells me, that Ohio State's can, that's probably a very good sign in terms of Ohio State winning in the trenches. If Ohio State can run the ball, Ohio State probably wins the game. And it just but running the ball here is not like pop off 160-yarder. It's get stay on schedule 4, 5, 6 yards of carry.
Yeah, it's where you're almost better suited for the Dallin Hayden type of 80 yards or 100 yards than you are the TreVeyon Henderson where it's one big run and several smaller runs with Henderson. Let's tackle a couple of questions while we have some quiet.
Parker Seymour, do we think that J.J. McCarthy will complete a pass longer than 15 yards?
That is a affirmative. Yes, he will definitely complete a pass longer than 15 yards. There's, are you talking like downfield or some catch and run type of stuff? It's a long game. There can be plenty of plays made, and it's the whole bootleg to the tight end is still a thing at Michigan and will never not be a thing at Michigan.
Yeah, and Colton Loveland is has been impressive to me. Like when they were down Eric All and Luke Schoonmaker, I thought, oh boy,
yeah,
that's a big problem. And now, I do think Luke Schoonmaker is probably going to be back this week. I assume he is, and Loveland has shown that he's more than capable as well.
And having both of those guys, because they haven't had the depth there that they need right now.
Yakov 22. Do you think OSU is preparing as if Blake Corum is 100%, although for sure he's less than that?
Yeah, they're definitely preparing for him to be 100%. It wouldn't make sense not to. You prepare for the very best that you're going to see, and then you adjust accordingly. And I always go back to the 2007 Michigan game. You prepare for everybody to be healthy. Then when you see what they're not, then you adjust. And what that means for what Jim Knowles is going to do. Maybe they keep stuff. Not that you give up leverage because it's not going to bounce outside as much, but you can focus your attention more to where the run is going, and the escape hatch that they talk about isn't necessarily going to be there if he can't cut.
Yeah, they are preparing for Blake Corum to play. They are preparing as if Blake Corum is going to be healthy enough to go and be at least a reasonable facsimile of what he normally is. But if Blake Corum can't cut, if he can't go, if there's issues with lateral stability in that knee, because we don't know exactly, if it's a meniscus thing versus a partial ACL tear or whatever, that's very different in terms of how that's going to impact him in terms of running. If it's a meniscus, they can shoot something in there and make him not feel the meniscus and let him be something close to a reasonable facsimile of himself.
Like when they've lost some guys. Ohio State's lost some guys over the years for a few weeks for a meniscus thing, and Maurice Claret, I believe, had a meniscus issue in 2002. But it does. I mean, you don't often see them play through it, and so if it's something like that, you may try. But you'll see, like they saw in the second half, he was not effective on just the one play, so they took him out. In terms of injuries, Tommy Eichenberg playing with 2 broken hands. We saw him today. There's like no casts or anything while he's like out amongst the people. He just hands look fine. But he was asked, what would it take for you to not play? And he's like, I don't even know. Like, I'd be so injured, I don't even know. And it reminded me of John Simon in 2012. The same kind of guy, the exact same kind of guy. You practically have to kill him to keep him from playing, but his knee blew up to like the size of a basketball, and you can't, like, watching him walk out on senior day or hobble out gave you an idea of that's why he's not playing, because he can't walk, and that's what it would take for a guy like Tommy Eichenberg.
And frankly, I think
maybe
that
Blake Corum.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to take for a guy like Blake Corum. If he doesn't play, he is really, really injured, because he is so crucial to what that team does on offense. You take him out of there, boy, that changes the whole picture. And that's why I'm having such trouble figuring out what the heck I think is going to happen in this game, because it's just, there are so many things that you look at one thing and you're like, well, if this team can do this, they're going to win. But if this guy is healthy, they're going to win. I would say I would be leaning Michigan if Blake Corum was healthy, but he's not healthy. So how does that impact it? How healthy is it? That's just, it is a really, really interesting matchup for so many reasons.
Yeah, and let's go ahead. You got any more questions?
Ryan Stan saying he believes it's a bone bruise for Corum. I mean, I've seen that reported by some people out there, but it's the internet, so you don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation that it's a bone bruise, that it can get worse if you do something to it, and so there's a concern there that they won't. But like I said, if he doesn't play, that's a happy accident for Ohio State. That sort of thing. Like, oh, we prepared. I guess we wasted our time. No, you didn't waste your time. It's better to have prepared and not seen him than not prepared and see him.
Yeah, and if you have Donovan Edwards out there, and I am fully expecting to see Donovan Edwards this week. If you have Donovan Edwards out there, he's not exactly Blake Corum, but he does, he presents a little bit of a different challenge. He's also a much better running back than CJ Stokes. He gives them a running attack, a rushing threat that they didn't have in the second half against
You
Illinois.
still have to concern yourself with Donovan Edwards.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a worrisome guy. Ohio State wanted him. It's not unlike Dallin Hayden in terms of like Michigan has to be worried about him. Like he can do some things, and Donovan Edwards is probably better. I think most people, 95% of the people would say he's better than Dallin Hayden, who is Ohio State's fourth running back. But so yeah, if Edwards plays, but again, it comes down to what is his percentage. Like if he's 75%, there's a scenario where Dallin Hayden is the healthiest guy, and Ohio State has the advantage at running back.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. If you've got the top two guys on both teams out with injuries, if you've got, if Mine Williams can't go, if Travion Henderson can't go, if Blake Corum can't go, if Donovan Edwards can't go, the best running back on that field is Dallin Hayden. Mm-hmm. I no offense to CJ Stokes and Isaiah Gash, but I haven't seen anything from either of those guys that that comes close to 300-yard games. And Dallin Hayden had done a lot of it in fourth quarter. Okay, so you can sort of hand wave some of that. I haven't seen anything from either Stokes or Gash that looked anything like Dallin Hayden against Maryland. So you can sort of hand wave some of it, but at some point it's like, okay, this looks pretty real.
Yeah, Kevin.
Yakov. Although it is unfair, it is a legacy-defining game for both Ryan Day and C.J. Stroud.
It is. It is. Is it unfair? I mean, for C.J. Stroud, he will have 2 starts in this game. Mm-hmm. That is enough time to win a game. I don't think it's any of his fault. Last year's game went the way it did, so that's. But you are judged by winning this game, and he threw for 394 yards, 2 touchdowns, sacked a bunch, harassed a bunch. Still impressed everybody that had to face him. He was not the reason for that loss, but what's your record against Michigan, Mr. Starting Quarterback?
Exactly. That is one of the ways you define a quarterback's career at Ohio State. And, I don't know. I've never thought that quarterback starting record was a particularly great metric because it's like, well, he's not playing defense and he's not catching his own passes and he's not blocking for himself. But that is one of the ways, when we talk about legacy, we're not necessarily talking about how you and I remember someone. Right. We're talking about how they are remembered by the fan base writ large, and that is a big part of it. When you say John Cooper, what is the first thing someone you say John Cooper to a random Ohio State fan? What is the first? Yeah. They're going to give you 3 numbers, Tony, and it's not an area code.
No, that would actually be a 4-digit area code.
Well, but it's 3 numbers. Anyway,
Kevin.
Yeah, David Greenshield. Any idea what Matt Jones's injury is?
Yeah, Matt Jones has had a foot ankle issue, and then he got rolled up to compound things. Not actually compound things.
Not a compound fracture,
no, but just make things worse. And so they're going to monitor that this week and see how it goes. Enoch Vamahi came in for him. Day was asked if Josh Fryer could maybe make that move to guard, because it's one of those things. You want your 5 best out there, and if Josh Fryer is your 5th, can he fit there? Day said he's played mostly tackle this year and exclusively tackle when he's not been a tight end. Hasn't really done any guard. He's done guard in the past. So it just depends on where they put him this week. Like, could Josh Fryer get up to speed at guard this week? Perhaps, but Enoch Vamahi probably is the better guard, and so then you go with him instead.
Well,
it's just easier that way.
As much as we talk about the importance of the offensive line gelling and working together and all that kind of stuff, you don't want to throw. If they thought Josh Fryer was their best guard, I think they would have given Josh Fryer a lot more guard reps than it sounds like they have. Yeah. He's the 3rd tackle. It sure sounds like Enoch Vamahi is the 3rd guard, and I wondered a couple weeks ago why, when Matt Jones looked hobbled so often, why they hadn't thrown Enoch Vamahi in there. And Ryan Day was asked about that, and he kind of said, well, we're going to play the guys we think are the best. So very clearly they feel there's a gap between Jones and Vamahi, but if Jones is this is a variation of the if Jones is at 90%, who's better? If Jones is at 70%, who's better?
Yes.
Super chat from Jordan Kapler. If OSU wins, credit goes to Tony and Kevin. If OSU loses, it's Tom's fault.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Jordan. That's the insight that's why we invite questions and comments from the viewers, because that's stuff that I want to say because it's what we believe, but I also just don't want to throw it out there. It's irresponsible. But if we're just reading what somebody else is saying, and then we could like cite that, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Tom is a guy that the vibes are often negative, as we know. Peyton blank Tom, as we like to call him. So yeah, that's a great point. Tom, your thoughts? Kevin, anything else?
Parker Seymour, score prediction, or is it too early in the week?
Well, we gave what a heat check? What was it? A score vibe, a temperature check?
Yeah.
A few days ago. I don't even remember what I went with. I think I went with something like 27-10 or something. I don't really remember. I honestly, I'm going to I'll get the email from Mark. I'll be eating dinner with family and be like, oh. Not what?
Why is Mark emailing us in the middle of Thanksgiving dinner?
But that's going to be a tough one. I don't really have a great thought yet. If I end up sticking with 27-10, I'll be pretty shocked because that's just an ugly number. That's
yeah.
Or did I say 37? I don't even know. Do you guys have any?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, I don't remember my score either, but right now, at this point, I'm sitting at 35-24 Ohio State. I don't know why, but that's where I'm at.
That's at least a good-looking number. I might say 35-23 due to more field goals than touchdowns.
I like I said, I have changed my mind on this game about 15 times. Right now, I am a little more kind of want to see it before I give Ohio State the benefit of the doubt. We have seen enough where the offensive line has not looked tremendous. The interior of the offensive line has not looked tremendous. I don't think the defensive line has been tested by an offensive line as good as Michigan's. I would also like to see, let's see a Ryan Day offense that doesn't kick a bunch of field goals or bog down in the red zone against a good defense where, I think it'll be very difficult for me to pick a score that is just Ohio State scoring some multiple of 7.
Right.
Ohio State 34, Ohio State 27, something like that, where they're bogged down in the red zone.
It's going to be a 26 with 4 field goals and 2 touchdowns.
And honestly, with Michigan, if Michigan's not able to run the ball as consistently, 27-26 kind of game, that's in play. It's not a visually pleasant game by any means.
Frustrating outcome for both teams, except at the end.
Except someone wins. Yeah, it's. I'm sure I will change my mind 4 more times between now and then. And it's just the annoying thing is there's so much that you wish you knew that it's like if you just told me how this guy was going to do, how this guy is feeling, whether this guy is going to play, how well this is going.
How does Michigan score, say, the 5 times needed for these 23 points without a healthy Blake Corum? Well,
Donovan Edwards gets one long pass out of the backfield. You have one drive.
I think that happens.
You have one drive where there's a J.J. McCarthy scramble for 17 yards on 3rd and 6, and they hit the tight end on 2 different passes. And
don't forget the deep shot.
And then there's a deep shot
where
they don't connect, but they there's a pass interference call. I mean, you could see them getting down in the red zone. I think
turnover.
You get one turnover, you have one long
short drive
kick return or something. It's just you can see them. I frankly think I'm done picking Ryan Day's teams to score in the 30s in big games until I see them score in the 30s in big games, or at least more than 35. It feels like we're constantly saying Ohio State's going to score 52 points against whoever because they do that to Rutgers and they do that to whoever, and then it's constantly he's 4-4 in games where they don't score 30 points. Like that feels like I'm. What's the over/under in this game?
Down to 8.5. Oh, the over/under, I don't know.
Yeah, the over/under. I think it was in the 60s.
No, it was
70s.
57.
57. Okay, yeah. Well, 57. Guess what? That's 20. Yeah, 29, 28. I mean, that's except an 8-point game, so that's 30.
Yeah, 33 something or other.
Yeah, I mean 33.
They scored 27, and they're not last year offensively against Michigan. They're probably, I say they're a better offense now, but the passing game, the receivers have struggled a little bit. Not Marvin, obviously,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you know, getting like you need Julian Fleming to be at his best. You need Emeka Ibuka to be at his best. The concentration, catching the ones that hit their hands. If that happens, then I think you can see a 1-score game be a 2 or 3-score game.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And if Ohio State gets up to start, off the bat, if Ohio State's up 14-3 early in the second quarter, that could turn into a real bad day for Michigan if Michigan has to try and come from behind and they can't run the ball. But can Ohio State, start hot, not come out of the gates sluggish like they have at times, and can Ohio State score on more than one of their first 3 drives? Because it just feels like, without going back and looking this year, it feels like they've scored on one of their first 3 drives or less, like 6 times, maybe 7. So can they come out of the gate a little hot and either, you have that first drive like you had against Maryland, but then you follow it up and you actually, get that second score on the board. If they can do that, this has a chance to kind of snowball in Michigan. It just, again, you would kind of like to see it before you just assume it happens.
Assuming you keep the pedal down, but it feels like they would, where if you're up like 17-3 and then you got a 4th and 3 at the 24, do you go for it, going to try to get that touchdown? Because I want a touchdown right now. I've got a little room. I can be aggressive. Or do you want to be, or do you just like, well, you know what, let's get up 4 scores or 3
scores. Yeah,
I
mean that's how much time is left on the game.
Yeah.
is the question. Because if it's the fourth quarter, if it's a fourth quarter and 5 minutes left, you kick it because you get up 3 scores. If it's the second quarter, then it's what is the how has the running game been to get you to this point? How is all that kind of stuff? The answer, Tony, is it depends.
Oh, great insight. Dynamite drop in, Monty. Kevin?
Yeah, Peace Clan. I would not be leaning Michigan even if Corum was healthy. Michigan is a one-trick pony, run only, and there are way too many more tangibles in our favor, to say nothing about stats, common opponents.
Penn State.
Well,
the answer on common opponents is it depends. Which common opponent would you like to look at? Because the teams that one team has played at home and one team's played on the road. Guess what? The team that plays at home has looked significantly better than the team playing on the road. So
yeah. Well, and if their one trick is better than all of your tricks.
Yeah. How many tricks did they have last year?
Yes, exactly. And so that sometimes that's all you need, and that's all they needed last year. Anything else, Kevin?
Yeah, I'm looking. We're about almost 5 after 3. Another one from Yakov. If you're a 4 or 5-star quarterback or wideout, sell me on going to Michigan. Doesn't mean not a very good overall program.
Well, sell a 4 or 5-star receiver quarterback on going to Michigan. Lloyd Carr's own grandson is going to Notre Dame instead of Michigan.
A program famous for developing tremendous quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's like, well, that was your other option?
Yeah.
That's where you wanted to go? Well, I've always been a Rick Minter fan or a Rick Meyer fan. I can't. Like, you're going to play a lot, but you're not going to who are you being developed? Is anybody there being developed for the next level? Like Ronnie Bell came in as an incredible athlete. He has played well. What is he, a 5th rounder? I mean, is he more than what he ever was, say, as a sophomore? Like, he's dealt with injuries, but who is more? Like, Mike Sainer still is more than he was because he's changed position. But like, who is vastly more than they were than what they came in?
Yeah, I mean, I go back to Donovan Peoples-Jones, and
never had a 100-yard game at Michigan.
Turning a 5-star player into a 4th round pick,
7th round
pick. Okay, and not even an NFL draft pick. He got picked by the Browns instead.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
and now he's playing well, and that's what they did. And what is the last first round skill player that went to Michigan was it may have been, I don't think it was Braylon Edwards, but it may have. Chris Perry was like a first rounder, and that's how far back.
That's crazy.
It is.
You think about Ohio State churning out first round. I mean, multiple wide receivers, and if you want to say went to Ohio State 3 in a row last year, I mean that's crazy. It's
15 or 20 years since they've turned out a first round skill player. Anything else, Kevin, or should we wrap it? Okay, let's go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank you all for joining us here on this quiet Tuesday afternoon.
The leaf blower's going. Time to wrap up.
Yeah, I was expecting this to go on the entire time, and then as soon as we wrap, boom, the leaf blower would go away, and then I would run over them with my car because now you stop.
As your attorney, I would advise you not to do that.
Now, if something
And if
happens,
you do that, not to admit it on a live stream in
well,
advance.
is this on?
That shows premeditation, Tony.
Well,
as your attorney,
the scary thing now is if he gets hit, somebody's gonna think it's me.
you can't tell anyone. This is privileged communication.
Thank you. I got to give you $1. I see all the TV shows. But that will do it for us. Thank you all for joining us. As always, find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a member. Say hello to us there. Go ahead and hit thumbs up here if you like leaf blowers. And we would appreciate that. We'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.